How's it going everyone, it is Panjano here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys the ultimate FPS increase guide for Apex Legends 2021, overhauling some of the previous optimizations in which have been included in my previous versions of this guide, alongside providing you with a plethora of brand new optimizations to help enhance the gameplay experience completely. Regardless of your system specs, whether you're running on an old, dated laptop, all the way up to the latest and greatest in gaming hardware, providing you with tweaks and optimizations to help reduce input latency to the lowest level possible on your system, alongside boosting your in-game FPS. As always guys, if you do enjoy this video, please do remember to leave a like on the video as it does help me out tremendously, and make sure to let me know of your results, questions, queries, tips or suggestions for other content you wish to see come to the channel. Please do remember you can click that subscribe button alongside the bell notification and you'll be notified instantly whenever new content goes live on the channel. Now before we do anything, we're first of all going to be removing any older and outdated config files for the game which could be slowing down performance and adding in unnecessary bloat. For this you need to navigate to the bottom left hand side, click on your Windows File Explorer, then navigate over to the left hand side to this PC. With inside of here, go to your local disk C drive, go to Users, then select the user in which you're currently logged into. Then navigate down to the saved games file, go inside of Respawn, Apex, Local. Now we are going to be deleting every single config file with inside of here, but before we do this, it is important to boot into the game and take note and note down any key binding information in which you may have if you have custom keybinds, and more importantly, your mouse sensitivity, as when we go to delete these files, those settings will be lost. We're then going to go ahead and right click on these files, then select delete. Navigate back with inside of Origin or Steam and simply boot into the game. Doing this will generate us brand new configs for Season 9. For the next optimization, we're now going to be going ahead and applying our brand new 2021 launch options to Apex Legends. Simply navigate with inside of Steam, find Apex, right click, then select Properties. Inside of the main General tab, navigate down to the launch options box, and this should be empty. What you can then go ahead and do is navigate inside of the description down below where you'll be finding the launch options to copy and paste section, copy the launch options, then right click with inside of the blank box, then select paste. They should look very similar to this. Once done with inside of here, for a few more optimizations for Steam users, it's also recommended to not use the desktop game theater whilst Steam VR is active. It is also recommended to disable using the in-game overlay whilst in-game, as this can introduce input latency issues. If you do run into any issues using the store or inviting people, just navigate back with inside of the General tab and reselect this option. We're also going to be navigating over to the left hand side to our local files tab, then go over to Browse and simply scrolling down to r5apex.exe. We're then going to go ahead and right click and then select Properties. Navigate over to the Compatibility tab, and this is where things get interesting for Season 9. If you guys are running on an ultra low end to medium end PC, whether that be old or new, it is actually recommended to have disable full screen optimizations selected. But if you guys are running on a medium end to ultra high end system, it is actually recommended to have this option disabled. For every single person watching this video, we're also going to be going down to change high DPI settings, then selecting the override high DPI scaling behavior option at the bottom, selecting OK, apply, and OK. With the game folder still open, I like to navigate to the top right hand side and select the minimize button to come back to the game folder easily later on. For the next step, we're then going to be implementing our brand new Autoexec.cfg, which can help us fine tune our graphics settings automatically upon boot of the game, which can help us drastically reduce input latency. You can download my Autoexec using the link in the description down below titled Autoexec. This will bring you to this Google document like so. The good thing with this is that you can simply go ahead and highlight all the way from the top down to the bottom, hit Ctrl and C on your keyboard to copy. We can then minimize out of the web browser, right click on the desktop, select new, and make a new text document. We're then going to call this autoexec.txt. We're then going to double click inside of the autoexec, right click, and then select paste. Navigate to the top left hand side. We're then going to select save as. Go to save as type. We're going to select this to all files. We're then going to remove the .txt off the end and then put .cfg. We can then save this to our desktop. Once you have this file, we're then going to right click on the file and select copy. For the first location, we're going to bring up the file explorer we had open up before. Click anywhere within inside of the blank space, right click, select paste, find the CFG folder. Once again, right clicking, selecting paste, then going inside of the client folder, once again, pasting the Autoexec with inside of there. It is worthwhile noting if you wish to go between using the Autoexec and not using the Autoexec, you can simply just remove this line of code from your launch options and the Autoexec will no longer automatically run when the game is booted. Starting off with the most basic Windows optimizations, we're first of all going to be navigating to the bottom left hand side and typing in game space mode, then clicking on game mode settings. With inside of it, we want to make sure that game mode has been switched to the on position. We then want to navigate over to the Xbox game bar on the left hand side, ensure that the Xbox game bar has been switched to the off position position. We're then lastly going to be navigating to the left hand side to captures and ensure that any capture options with inside of here are turned to the off position. You can then navigate to the bottom left hand side once again, this time typing in GPU space settings, then clicking on the graphics settings tab. With inside of here, for those of you running on any compatible hardware, if the option for hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is available for you, it is recommended to have this switched on. With inside of here, we're going to go ahead and select browse, and we're going to be adding Apex into this utility. Easiest way you can do this is to navigate back down to your file explorer, back inside of the Apex installation directory we accessed earlier. You can then navigate up to the navigation bar at the top, go to the right hand side to the end and double click. What we're then going to go ahead and do is simply copy all of this, then go with inside of here, navigate up to this PC, double click, right click, then select paste, press enter. Once inside of here, select r5apex.exe, then select add. Once it's then been added, navigate down to the options menu and ensure that high performance has been selected. Once we're done with inside of there, select save. We can then go ahead and exit out. We can then apply a very quick and simple system maintenance step. For this, we're going to navigate to the bottom left hand side, type in %temp %, then press enter. We're then going to select every single file and folder with inside of here, right click, then select delete. This is simply going to remove any excess dump files, caching files, and other temporary unnecessary files from Windows manually. For any pop-ups that do come up, simply go ahead and click this for do this for all current items, then select skip. Once you've done that, you'll more than likely be left with a few files and folders left with inside of here, and these are the only ones Windows was actually using. Now, for an additional important optimization for those of you that run SSDs in your system to ensure that you are getting the best performance possible. For the very nature of how SSDs work, you want to ensure that you have at least 15% space free on any and all of the SSDs installed to your system. As once you go over roughly 85% capacity being used on a single SSD drive in your system, that SSD will have extremely lowered performance and can cause micro stuttering if files are being read very quickly, which is important whilst gaming. Go through all of your drive, go ahead and delete unnecessary video files and extra files you no longer need. Feel free to also juggle files between drives just to ensure that you are dissipating that used storage space between them evenly. For this next step, this is going to be one of the most important Windows-based optimizations in which you can apply with inside of this entire video to ensure that you are getting the best input latency and the best frames per second. For this step, you need to navigate inside of the description down below and click on the Process Lasso download link. In the simplest terms possible, Process Lasso is almost an advanced version of the Windows Task Manager. We have a lot more control, and the settings in which we set per program will be applied automatically whenever the program is open. Navigate to download now, select open file. Go ahead and select OK, agree, leave the default options open, select next, then select install. I like to leave the default options selected, then select next. On the configuration folder tab, I like to select manage all processes, then select finish. We are going to be using the free version of the program, so just go ahead and select continue. First of all, going to be taking ourselves to the top left hand side, selecting options, navigating down to CPU, navigating down to foreground boosting, enable foreground process and enable foreground thread. It's recommended to have both of these options selected, so click on the option, go back to options, CPU, foreground boosting, and you'll then see that the option has then been selected. Select both of them. We can then navigate over to the left hand side once again, going to options, this time going to general, navigating down to refresh interval GUI or GUI, and selecting 10 seconds. Once you've done that, navigate back over to options once again, general, refresh interval governor, and again, select this to 10 seconds. Once that's out of the way, navigate to the top left hand side to main, navigate down to performance mode enabled, navigating back over to main once again, navigating to active power profile. This time we're going to be selecting the brand new installed Bitsum highest performance profile. For the last and final optimization, we actually need Apex Legends to be running in the background. So for this, simply boot into Steam or Origin, boot into the game and tab out to the desktop. With inside of the Process Lasso tool, we're then going to go to all processes. With inside of here, we then need to find r5apex.exe. Right click, start by going to CPU priority, go to always, and we're going to select high. Right clicking on R5 Apex once again, navigating to CPU affinity, going down to always, we're actually going to be unchecking CPU 0. Once that's been applied, navigate with inside of IO priority, always high. Right clicking once again, navigating down to induce performance mode, select OK. What we then need to go ahead and do is simply minimize out of Process Lasso, and that is recommended to have running in the background every single time you boot into your PC, so the optimizations are constantly running. For the next Windows application, we're going to be using a program called ISLC or Intelligent Standby List Cleaner. Now, I recommend this program in absolutely every single one of my FPS increase guides, as it's one of the most important programs for helping reduce micro stutters. Navigate inside of the description down below like you have before, click on the ISLC download link, you'll be brought to this webpage. With inside of here, simply scroll all the way down to the bottom until you find official download here. The program will then be downloaded, then select open. Go ahead and select the three dots to the right hand side to the self-extracting archive, select desktop, select OK, extract. You'll then be met with a folder on your desktop titled ISLC. Double click on the folder. You can then go ahead and double click on the exe, then select yes. For the first box, this always needs to be set to 1024. For the second box, this needs to be set to half of your system total memory. You can see your system total memory in the top left hand side. As you can see for me, I have 16,000 megabytes or 16 gigabytes. Half of that is going to be roughly 1092. On the right hand side, you'll then be able to see wanted timer resolution. We're going to be setting this to a value of 0.50. Select the enable custom time resolution option. In the bottom right hand side, you'll then see ISLC polling rate. For slower, lower end to medium end systems, go with a polling rate of 1000 or 500, and for ultra high end new PCs or medium end PCs, go with 500 or 250. Once the program has then been set up, go to the bottom right hand side, select start, then select purge standby list. With that program then running in the background, and hit start, minimize the program, and that will automatically clean out your standby list in the background, automatically helping your games run fantastically. Next up, we have the GPU or graphics card optimization segment of this video. So before we do anything, we first of all need to source the latest graphics card driver available for our system, and the reason we're going to be doing this is we're going to be manually de-bloating or decluttering the driver to just install the elements of the driver in which we actually need, which can drastically improve performance. Go to your taskbar, right click, open Task Manager, go to the Performance tab, scroll all the way down on the left hand side, select GPU. In the top right, you'll then see the graphics card you have installed. You then need to navigate inside of the description down below and click on the corresponding link which matches the make of the graphics card you have installed. For those of you running on AMD Radeon based graphics cards, simply scroll down on the left hand side, you'll select graphics, then click on the series of the graphics card, then the model, then select submit. Once you've done this, click on the Windows 10 64-bit edition, then click on the top download. The file will then be downloaded to your system. For those of you running on Nvidia GeForce based graphics cards, scroll down to the manual driver search, select your product type, then select the series of GPU, select the product, operating system, language, start search. Click on the top download available for you, which will be the latest driver, then select download now, drag the driver onto your desktop, and we're then going to leave it there as we need a few more preparation steps before we go ahead and install this new driver. Now for those of you running on an Nvidia GeForce graphics card and you've just downloaded the latest driver, we're now going to go ahead and actually manually de-bloat our driver. Navigate inside of the description down below, you'll be able to find the Nvidia driver slimming utility. We're then going to proceed to scroll all the way down to the bottom, then simply select one of the download mirrors. And I'd like to make a quick folder on my desktop and just call it NVS. What we can then go ahead and do is drag all of these files inside of that folder. What we then need to go ahead and do is drag our brand new Nvidia driver in which we downloaded earlier and drop it into this folder as well. Then open up inside of the nvslimmer.exe. With inside of here, this will then request you to open up the Nvidia driver package. So go inside of the NVS folder we made, select the Nvidia driver you downloaded, then select open. If any pop-ups do come up, simply press OK. For everyone watching, we're first of all going to ensure that the core display driver required has been selected. For those of you running on laptops, you will also need the Optimus support button checked, but if you're not using a laptop, you can leave this unchecked. You can also install the HD audio section if you do use HDMI for your audio on your PC. If you're not sure if you do, just leave that selected. We also need to make sure that install core has been selected. I also like to install PhysX, and I'm personally going to be leaving everything else alone. This will mean that we do not have GeForce Experience or Shadowplay when we install the driver, but we're going to be manually installing it ourselves after the driver has been installed. We're then going to go to the bottom left hand side, then select apply, select yes. You're then going to go ahead and select no to install driver, then navigate down to the bottom right, then select repackage. Select your desktop once again, select OK. The file will then be repackaged into a brand new driver in which we can install later on. And you'll then notice that you have a brand new custom driver available on your desktop. Now before installing any new graphics driver to your PC, I'm going to be sharing with you the most important step for updating your GPU correctly, and also one of the best troubleshooting steps if you ever run into graphics card related issues or performance issues. Navigate inside of the description down below, find the display driver uninstaller link, then proceed down to the official download here section once again. Go ahead and select open file, extract this to your desktop, then go inside of the DDU folder. You'll then find the display driver uninstaller exe with inside of here. Windows does actually need to be booted into safe mode to correctly remove all current standing GPU files. So for now we're going to select minimize, then to boot into safe mode, for this you need to navigate down to the bottom left hand side, click on your Windows button, find the left shift key on your keyboard. It should just be above control, hold down the shift key, go ahead and click on your power button, right click, then select restart. Continue to hold down the shift key. Once inside of it, go to troubleshoot, go to startup settings, then click restart. With inside of it, we're then going to go ahead and click number 4 on our keyboard to enable safe mode. And you'll more than likely notice that Windows looks absolutely terrible as it's currently not using a graphics card driver. Once inside of it, we're then going to boot into the DDU folder once again, right click on display driver uninstaller, then run this as an admin. Go ahead and select OK, then click on close to the main pop-up. Please navigate to the right hand side to select device type, select GPU, then go to the drop down menu where it says AMD, then select either Nvidia, AMD or Intel, depending on which current graphics card you are removing the drivers for. Once it's been selected, navigate to the top left hand side and we're going to select the option for clean and restart, highly recommended. This will then begin the process of deleting and removing all of your current standing graphics card driver files, will then be automatically restarted back into Windows. We can then go ahead and go to install our graphics card driver. For AMD users, go ahead and double click on your file, select yes, then select install. You can actually navigate down to additional options and you can choose the installation type. You can go with driver only, minimal install or full install. And you're going to click on the option which best matches how you use the Radeon driver. Now with any driver installation, you're more than likely going to experience a few screen flickers, your resolution may change a few times, and you may be asked to restart your PC at the end of the installation. Now for those of you looking to install your brand new de-bloated Nvidia driver, what you'll go ahead and do is double click on the driver in which we repackaged earlier on and select yes. This will then begin to extract the driver and open up the installation path. Once our custom Nvidia driver has been successfully installed, we now need to go ahead and download the GeForce Experience if we wish to use the GeForce Experience, Shadow Play, Instant Replay, or any other GeForce Experience features. Navigate inside of the description down below, click on the GeForce Experience download link, select download now. Select open file, then run through the basic setup and select all of the default options and you're then good to go. Simply sign into your Nvidia GeForce account like you usually would and GeForce Experience will be up and running. For the next GPU tweak for both Nvidia and AMD Radeon users, you need to navigate inside of the description down below and select the MSI Utility download link. Simply scroll halfway down this forum post, you'll find the MSI Utility v3 down here. Click on this media file link, select download. Once inside of the zip folder, I like to drag this over to my desktop, right click on the utility, run this as an administrator, select more info, run anyway. What we first of all need to do on the left hand side is we need to navigate down and find our graphics card on which is installed to our PC. Once that's been done, navigate over to the right hand side to the MSI box, ensure that the MSI box has been selected, then navigate over to the interrupt priority section to the right of that, go to the drop down menu, select high, navigate over to the top right hand side to apply, exit out, and we've then successfully applied the optimization, helping us reduce input latency further on our graphics card. Once that's completed, we can then go ahead and boot into the game and go through all of our Apex 2021 graphics settings. We're going to start off by navigating up to the video tab. For display mode, we're going to be going with full screen as this will always provide us with the best input latency possible. Navigating down to resolution. For the most part, I would recommend going with your native resolution. Navigating down to field of view. I'd recommend setting this to your personal preference, so whatever you like this number to be, but do bear in mind the higher this number is, the slightly lower FPS you will be receiving. VSync should be disabled for absolutely every single person watching. For those of you on an Nvidia based graphics card which is compatible, I would recommend going ahead and setting Nvidia Reflex to enabled plus boost. Anti-aliasing is always recommended to have turned off if you are looking for the best input latency possible and the best FPS. The only downside to turning anti-aliasing off is that your game will look a lot sharper and you'll be seeing more jagged edges on the corner of objects. Texture streaming budget should either be set to very low for the best performance possible, but for those of you on higher end GPUs and you want a slightly better looking game, I would set this to medium at the highest regardless of how good your graphics card is. Texture filtering should be set to bilinear, ambient occlusion quality is going to be set to disabled, sun shadow coverage is going to be set to low, sun shadow detail low, spot shadow detail disabled, volumetric lighting disabled, dynamic spot shadows disabled, model detail is going to be set to your personal preference. All of your world and environment textures set to very low using the texture streaming budget, but you have model detail set higher. The details of the characters inside of the game will be very high and everything else will be very low, making it a lot easier to spot characters. For me personally, I like to have this set to medium and no higher, but for the best FPS possible, go with low. Effects details should be set to low for everyone. Impact marks I recommend disabling, and ragdolls also set to low. Navigate to the bottom left hand side and select apply. Once you're done with inside of the video tab, navigate over to the left hand side to the gameplay tab. Now what I like to do is I like to have my performance display turned on. This is where you'll be able to see basic information regarding your network latency and your frames per second with inside of the game. I also recommend turning off usage sharing mode. Last but not least, we then need to navigate over to the mouse/keyboard or controller section. With inside of here, you'll then have to go ahead and set all of the settings in which we backed up earlier on, such as your keybind settings and mouse sensitivity options. Ensure that mouse acceleration has been turned off. Then just navigate down, set all of your key bindings. Once that's completed, we can then go ahead and select back. Now, as mentioned earlier on in this video, there is also going to be one last step in which we're going to be applying for those of you that are struggling to achieve at least 100 FPS with inside of the game. When setting your adaptive resolution target, you want to set this to a realistic FPS value in which your PC can often achieve. So when you're playing Apex Legends, if you're playing anywhere from 60 FPS to 90 FPS and you can rarely hit 100, I would recommend setting this to about 85 or 90 FPS as it sits you comfortably where your PC can actually perform. perform. You don't want to set this number higher than your average FPS, as your game will look terrible 99% of the time. The game will dynamically lower the rendering resolution to compensate for this, to hopefully help reduce that FPS drop in which you're about to experience. So just remember not to set this option too aggressively, otherwise you will result in an extremely blurry looking game. Now before we finish up with the in-game settings, it's incredibly important for those of you running on an Nvidia based graphics card that use the GeForce experience to press Alt and Z on your keyboard. Now with inside of here, if you are looking for the best FPS possible and you don't use these features, it is always recommended to ensure that instant replay is turned to the off position. It's also incredibly important not to be using any game filters in high demanding games such as Apex Legends or other battle royales. Navigate to the game filter tab, navigate over to styles, or just navigate over to off, then go ahead and press Alt and Z, and you're then good to go. Now before we close out this video, I'm going to be going over one last experimental optimization for those of you running on an Intel based CPU. This experimental optimization is coming in the form of the inspector tool, which can disable the meltdown and spectre mitigations with inside of your CPU, which Intel and Microsoft have both had to deploy patches for. This is to fix a security vulnerability with inside of the CPUs themselves, which has come at a performance deficit of anywhere from 5 to 15% depending on the workload. Following this optimization comes at your own risk. So to apply this optimization, you'll need to navigate inside of the description down below and find the experimental tab. With inside of there, you'll find the inspector tool linked. You'll be brought to this webpage found here, then navigate down to the download at Major Geeks link in the middle folder and drag this onto your desktop. Right click on the tool and run this as an administrator. With inside of here, select yes, navigate down to the bottom left hand side, select disable meltdown protection, then next to this click disable spectre protection. Once both of those have then been disabled, if you wish to come back with inside of here at any point and re-enable those protections, it's very simple and easy to do. Open it as an administrator, re-enable both protections, restart the PC, and you'll then be good to go. We're going to be selecting exit once that's been applied, navigating to the bottom left hand side, right clicking on our power button, then selecting restart. You can then go through some advanced optimizations and BIOS tweaks and settings in which you can look into to further increase performance for some advanced or more experimental users. Now do bear in mind that if you wish to follow any of the following steps, you're doing so at your own risk. These are just some of the optimizations I apply on all of my PCs to ensure that I am getting the best performance possible. You first of all want to check if you do have above 4G decoding available in your BIOS. If you do see this option, it is recommended to have this turned on regardless of your system specs. We're also going to be navigating over to the memory tab and ensuring that we do have our XMP or DOCP profile, if you're running on an Asus motherboard, enabled. Now for an optimization for those of you that are running on 6 core or more CPUs, now both of these CPUs will perform drastically better inside of latency heavy workloads such as games if you disable hyperthreading on the Intel system or SMT on the AMD system. This will give me a slight hit on my multi-core performance, but I can gain up to 20% better FPS in games such as Warzone and other CPU heavy games. It also helps me achieve a higher overclock and has managed to reduce my temperatures by about 10 degrees just by turning that feature off. Another option in which you can look for on your BIOS is also to turn off the HPET. If your BIOS does support the search feature, just simply search for HPET and you'll find the high precision event timer on. It is recommended to turn off the high precision event timer as this can introduce micro stuttering with inside of games and introduce further input latency. And there you guys have it. That is the ultimate FPS increase guide for Apex Legends Season 9. So if you have enjoyed the video and are happy with your results, please do remember to leave a like on the video as it does help me out tremendously, and remember to subscribe and press the bell notification if you do enjoy content like this and wish to stay up to date with the channel. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this video. I'm Panjano, and I'll see you in the next one.